Got it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching from, lovely people. This is Marie Alessi with yet another Up Spiral Grieve interview. And today, I've been so excited and counting down the days. I've got Jeff Johnston next to me, and I met Jeff through LinkedIn, I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong. That's how we connected. And I just absolutely love your story. I love what you're about to embark on. So I cannot wait to share this with our audience. But before we get into the questions, Jeff, do us the honor and please introduce yourself to the audience. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, Maria, I'm super excited. We had a great conversation a few weeks back and just talking about loving life after loss. What a great title. I am from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and that's in the middle of the United States, about 4 hours west of Chicago. That gives people kind of an idea where we are. We're in what's called the flyover state. So people just go back and forth to East Coast, West Coast. They just fly over Iowa. So yeah, my previous life before I had my life change was a financial advisor. I'd built up an investment firm from the age of 23 up to until things started really changing in my life. So I no longer do that. And I've taken some of my, business savvy and some things that I developed as an entrepreneur. And now I'm venturing into the mental health, substance abuse and addiction area to try to help people make better choices during difficult situations. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this, because in our little pre-chat, you gave me permission to just dive right in, because we've only got about half an hour and there is so much that I want to share. So let's just go for it. Let's just go straight to the point. You mentioned before your life completely changed. Can we talk about this? Because this is really something where you've had accumulated loss. There was not just one story in your life. It was just one after the other, and it was a very, very intense story. So can we start with your son? Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm 56. So at age 50, I was on top of the world, as I like to tell people. I was self-employed, business professional, married, 3 boys, coaching, doing all the things that we tried to do. And then on October 4th, 2016, I got that call that every parent dreads. And it's the call that you find out that you're a member of a club that you didn't ask to join, and certainly one you can never leave. And that's finding out your oldest son died. And the manner in how Seth passed was, believe it or not, it was kind of predictable, because he had been battling substance abuse and addiction for about 6 years. But on that day, they found him dead from an overdose poisoning of fentanyl in heroin. And he was only 23 years old. And, that was a major moment in my life where, as I talk about now, where I made some very conscious decisions to become a better person, not a bitter person. But it didn't happen overnight. As I talked to you earlier, my drinking got worse. My wife and I just basically didn't know what to do. How do you cope with the loss of a child? And then,
but I knew I had two. Oldest son, is that right?
Yeah, it was our oldest son,
so he was 23. And how old were the other 2 boys at that time?
Well, Ian was 15 and Roman was 13.
Wow.
So the day Seth died, after I had to tell my wife, which was the worst moment of my life, I had to figure out how I was going to tell my 2 boys that their older brother was dead. At 15 and 13, those are hard ages of just anything. Yeah. And the way it went down, Marie, is I sat him on the couch from the advice of my dad, just to tell him the truth.
Yeah.
And then don't talk. Just let him ask questions.
Wow.
So that was a great lesson there that I learned about having these discussions, is sometimes the less talking we do, the better.
That is powerful. It's so powerful. I think I always say there is no sugarcoating such a message.
Right.
The truth is just has to be said straight. Yeah.
I sat him down on the couch and I said, boys, I have some really bad news for you. And they both looked at me and I said, your older brother is dead. And I think they thought maybe I was joking or kidding, but then they realized I was serious because I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And I could see both of their eyes, swell up. And then my middle son, 15, he looked at me and said, how'd he die, Dad? Drugs? And I said, Ian, he died from drugs. And then something amazing happened, Marie, and I didn't practice this. I don't know where it comes from. And I stood up and I thought to myself, okay, Jeff, this is that moment that you have as a parent You've got one chance to mess this up now. What comes out of your mouth in the next few minutes is going to dictate the quality of the life of your family for forever.
Wow.
And so I'm thinking this internally as I'm
Of
just
course.
kind of thinking, what am I going to say? And
Mm.
so I stood up and I said, boys, we have one of two roads to go down. And this became a framework of my book. And it's a chapter called The Two Roads. I said, we have one of two roads to go down, one road of anger, despair, and hatred, and we'll become alcoholics and addicts ourselves, or we can go down a road of inspiration and motivation. And this event can be the greatest single moment in our lives to make our lives better and the people around us. And here's the most important thing I said, Marie, I'm on the second road and I ask you to join me. So it was important for me when I was framing this to the boys. Yeah, I didn't want to tell the boys what to do. I was going to show them what to do. Now, it didn't work out so well. The first year, my wife and I just literally tried to drink ourselves. Every day we drank and I didn't work. And then finally in December 24th of 2017, so about 14 months after Seth died, I woke up one morning, Marie, and just said, enough's enough. I've been drinking since 8th grade. I'm a functional alcoholic. So, it didn't affect me any. I was just drinking every day. Yeah. And I quit primarily to help my wife because her drinking was actually getting worse than mine. And unfortunately, in June of last year, on 29th of June, my wife died from alcoholism. We were married 21 years and she was only 46. So in a matter of 4.5 years, Maria, I went from being on top of the pinnacle of life, thinking, okay, I've made it, crossing the finish line, and losing my son and my wife. And then on top of it, my mom died over Thanksgiving. So it's been a tough 5 years, but like I tell people, this living undeterred mindset that we're really talking to people about is death doesn't have to be a defining moment negatively in your life. Yeah. Nothing has to be. And you're obviously painfully aware of this as well. When you share your story with me, it's really, we can't control the pain, but we can control the suffering, right? Yeah. The pain, it hurts. It goes right to your soul. It stabs you and it's torturous, but how we suffer, I believe, is the difference between those that end up drinking themselves to death or taking their own lives, or the ones that end up, in my case, doing a podcast and a book. And now we're traveling the United States in about a month, raising $1 million. So
that is incredible. You just throw it in there like as if it was nothing. It's like, we're raising. We're going to get to that in a minute. But what I would like to highlight before we get there is, what really, really stood out to me when I talked to you, the way we talk about grief, about death, is very similar. We've got so many parallels there, and I really loved how much emphasis you put on the choices. Even just saying to your sons, there's two roads we can travel. I invite you to come along. The idea of being a shining example, that was so important to me as well. I really, really love that, how you do that. It is incredible. It's incredibly empowering if you walk the talk and then bring people along with you. And this is what really created my path, and I can see your path is just so inspiring. It's really incredible what you have created out of that, because yes, your son's passing was something that you said it was sort of predictable, but also how you then deal with it is so different, because there's one thing knowing that it could happen, and then the other thing when it does happen, and then in dealing with reality. As you said, you had the best intention, to go down that path of recovery and of being clean and being strong, yet it didn't work so well for you the first year or year and a half. And then you did have that pivotal moment, though. You really had that pivotal moment where you said, you know what, this is my make it or break it moment. I can tell that it's not going so well for my wife. We've got the two sons to still look after. I need to change this. And you did, but you changed it in such a strong way. And may I also highlight, and this is something I'd really like to talk openly about, because those are mostly the questions that people don't really dare to ask. When did you reach that point, or did you even reach a point in your journey where you realized your wife is going downhill and you're going uphill, where you knew that you could not drag her uphill, she had to follow on her own path, where you knew if she wouldn't come that you had to leave her behind? Or how was that for you? Because that is really confronting in a marriage and as parents.
I think the day I quit drinking was too late. I think she was already gone. I couldn't save her at that point. And she went to the rehab facilities and she did all the overdosing on alcohol and took her to the emergency room and just, horrendous events that I would never share with people that happened in my house. And the boys had to witness a lot of that, after losing their brother on top of it. Now, I'm not throwing my wife under the bus by any means. Some people everyone deals with grief and trauma differently. And I think she tried the best that she could have tried, given the set of circumstances that were dealt to her. Yet there's a lesson in all this. There's certainly, I tell people in grief and trauma and people that are recovering from something, I say, it isn't as much as I'm going to show you the correct way to do this, because I don't think there is a correct way. We all have to find our own way, but I can certainly tell you the wrong ways to grieve and to deal with trauma and depression. And that's, drinking, lying, stealing, cheating, drugs, overeating, poor, bad foods, not exercising. These are all the deconstructive ways that we can deal with these things. And so I've developed this, I call it the living undeterred mindset. And it's really simple. It's just three things. One is expectations. Having realistic expectations on life. Life, it sucks, it's cruel, it's mean, it's unjust, but you know what? It's beautiful and it's inspiring and it's awesome and it's precious. And there's so many good things if you can take your frame of lens and flip it. And then the second is preparation. And preparation is, working out, meditating, reading, writing, avoiding toxic relationships. That's a huge one for adolescents and even adults. And then the third one is evolution. So in my book, I talk about evolution of self. And that's how there's a saying I had in my investment business. It goes like this, and I really like it. If you're green, you grow. If you're ripe, you rot. And the purpose behind that saying is, if you keep your mind always in the learning stage, my dad's 89 and he's still learning things constantly. He's learned how to get on Facebook. And I'm like, Dad, that's what it's about. You can't just stop. And so I want to keep learning. I want to learn about mental health. I want to learn about substance abuse. I want to learn about addiction. I want to learn about, compassion and how we can inspire people. So there is a lesson in all this.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a lesson in everything. And I love what you say, if you keep learning. And I had to smile because my mom was always asking me questions about Facebook and how to use it as well. Jeff, I'd really love for you to share about your tour. You said in about 3 weeks time, or 3 weeks exactly from today, you'll be embarking on an amazing journey, and you already threw it in there so elegantly. Raising $1 million. So tell us about that. Tell us, how did that come about and what are you actually going to do?
Well, first I'll preface this by saying attention deficit has its great attributes, but also it can be a curse. And I have attention deficit, and I never ever really feel like I'm doing enough. And I always feel like that I could be doing more. And I've been that way my whole life in sports and in my business. And now, death's given me this opportunity to do something very good. And so I was thinking about another book. I was thinking about, more podcast guests. And I thought, I got to get out. I got to do something. So I came up with this idea to buy an RV. It's a 34-foot RV. I've never been in an RV my entire life. And I came up with the idea because I saw some dad riding his bike around the state he lived in, raising money for breast cancer. And obviously his wife had breast cancer. So he became very impassioned. I thought, I can do that, but I don't want to ride a bike. And so I went the next day and bought a 34-foot RV, and I'd never been in one in my entire life. And reason why I did that, I'm not telling this story to brag. I'm telling this story because it forced me to do it. And if I would have came up with this idea and said, well, I'll buy an RV in 6 months, you know what? I never would have done it. I know how I'm wired. I know if I commit to it and go buy it and then go tell everybody, all my friends, I'm going to do this, I can't back out. And so that idea came up last May. And then in 3 weeks on May 9th, which is my middle son's 21st birthday, we leave on a 95-day odyssey around the United States. We go to every state. And we have 40 state partners now that have allowed us to come in and speak and talk. And it's actually the most humbling, amazing thing that I've ever been involved with in my entire lifetime. And it all came from just an idea that I felt like I wasn't doing enough. And so we're going to raise $1 million. I'm giving back half of whatever we raise to the 50 state partners that support me on this trip. And my two boys are going with me and one of their girlfriends. And we have a documentary crew that's coming along that's going to hopefully take this and package it. And we can talk to people about doing inspiring things when, when bad things happen.
That is absolutely incredible. And I watched a video when the RV arrived and how you walked around and how you walked through. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like a little mansion in there. I just love it. And I can't wait to hear how you're going to solve the problem with your son being 6'6" and not fitting into the bed. So you probably have to strap him to the roof or something.
We're going to figure out something.
Oh my God. It's amazing. I really love what you do. So have you, how's the tour going to unfold? Like, so you've got people in the States already preparing a location and times and all of that for you, doing the marketing for it, or how will you do that? So I assume that you will be talking and raising awareness around mental health. Or
we've got a team of 5 people right now on what I call Team Living Undeterred, and these are people that have a dog in the hunt. These are people that have been ex-alcoholics and they've had traumatic events happen in their lives, and so these people are not in it about anything other than the love of trying to help people. And so our goal is to pull in these state facilities. These are all nonprofits. We have to work with nonprofits so we can give money back to them. And they're going to be in charge of providing the venue, do the marketing. I'm speaking for maybe 30 to 40 minutes. Then we have what it called a local advocate come on up and talk about their story. I want to make this so not about Jeff Johnston. I want to make this about us. Yeah. And so we want to get the local people involved, and then we have a panel discussion for an hour afterwards.
Oh, beautiful! I love it.
Yep. And then I'll do a book signing, and we'll talk and we'll network, and then I just go to a campground with my boys and camp, and then get up the next day and do it again.
Wow. What are your boys going to do? Are they going to be involved in the speaking in the panel, or are they just going to be there with you to support Ian whole space?
I think Ian, my middle son, certainly wants to be in there because he's done some amazing things through golf. He raised $50,000 in high school.
Wow.
After his brother died through golf. And Ian won what's called the Jerry Cole Sportsmanship Award, which is they pick one junior golfer in the world to win this philanthropic type award. And my son was picked. And this was, 2 years after his brother died. Yeah. And then my other son is a huge advocate as well. And they've really stepped up and haven't gone backwards. And I'm real proud of them. And I think it just goes to show that kids can use things in their life. I sat the boys down one time, Marie, and I said, you know what, guys, this is like a year after Seth died. I said, this is your competitive advantage you have over all your friends, because you have a life event that they can't relate to, and you are flourishing. You are doing really now. They both go to therapists.
It really gives them such a level of maturity and emotional EQ. Like the EQ is so much higher. I can see that in my boys as well. It's incredible. So I think it's beautiful to actually tell them. It depends how we frame it.
How we frame it, Marie. And I think. I told the boys, I've lost a son and my wife, yet I'm going to show you guys that we don't want to survive. We want to thrive. I want to have a good life. I want to live. I'm 56. I want to live, 50 more years, and I want to have a great time. I want to laugh. I want to cry. I want to love. I want to give back. And I can't do it if I'm depressed and drunk and angry and bitter. It doesn't work, because anyone that joins me in my journey is going to get drugged down to that level as well. Yeah. So I got to be inspiring and uplifting. So I'm attracting people like that in my life. And here I am. I didn't plan on this 5 years ago whatsoever. And this kind of the cards we've been dealt. And everybody listening to your show and your followers and people that really, really grab onto your story, which is very similar in regards to just the chaos and the tragedy that you went through.
And the choices we made.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's really what it comes. My son and my wife should not be dead. They should both be here. And it's a series of not just their choices, but choices a lot of people made. I mean, there's a lot of culpability that goes around when somebody dies to substance abuse. There's things I probably could have done better. There's moments and choices I made that probably, I now I look back and I think, well, maybe I should have learned about Adderall. Maybe I should have understood that Adderall is watered down methamphetamines. instead of just taking the doctor's word for it. And my son got addicted to it, and that maybe I should have done a better job. So I don't play the guilt game. I play, what could I have learned? You know, we all have the benefit of hindsight, Marie. Yeah. But you don't want to go back in the benefit of hindsight and torture yourself and play what if games.
I think there's another choice to be made. You know, when you think of the benefit of hindsight, you can use it to destroy yourself and to go like, what even could I have and I should have, or you can use it to learn and make different choices going forward, because that's the only choice we really have. You know, we don't have the choice to change the past. That's not there, but we can always change what's ahead of us and how we educate people. And it's exactly what you're doing now. You're going around the States, like educating people and sharing messages that can and will, I'm absolutely certain, will save other people's life, you know, and that is such an amazing choice. You know, what you do with it, you could easily be just hiding away and licking your wounds, so to say, and saying, you know, how bad that this happened to me. Or you can use it as this happened for us to help other people. And you very clearly always make these choices. So what keeps you, Jeff Johnston, accountable? You know, who helps you? Because you are such a shining example. You're holding space for your boys. You're teaching them. You're traveling around the country to educate others. But what helps you actually? What keeps you motivated? What keeps you going? What keeps you out of trouble, if I may say it so sloppy?
Yeah. It's funny you say that, the accountability, because I just this week joined a group of a very small select people that we have a weekly accountability call. And perfect. It's a Zoom meeting, and we just hold each other accountable. And these aren't people that are in the same. One's a financial advisor that's doing nothing that I'm doing now. Another person is a wholesaler for a company, but we just have a good bond. And so we're meeting once a week, you know, kind of like over coffee, but it's Zoom, and just holding ourselves accountable. But I will tell your listeners this, that as strong as I looked and as strong as I act and as many projects as I have, as recently as Christmas, I had my first brush with suicidal ideation. And it's a complicated story. We don't have the time for me to go through it all, but the lesson was this: I took shortcuts in my therapy. And what I mean by therapy, in my coping mechanisms. I don't see a therapist. I probably should, but I don't. But I skipped meditation for a week. I skipped working out for a week. I was eating unhealthy for a week. What happened was, I thought I had conquered this. I thought I had it beat. And I started going through some boxes and things, and I just wasn't prepared for what was in the boxes. And I went from Mr. Living Undeterred to knowing it could take 7 seconds to get to my safe and get my gun. It's the most terrifying thing I've ever encountered in my entire lifetime. The fact that I could go from that to here in just that fast. And 2 days later, I literally woke up, and my business partner came over with his wife, and I don't remember. I just kind of blacked. I wasn't drunk. I didn't do drugs, but I don't remember what I did. I just sat in my bed and cried. And I was so alone, but if you would have called me, I wouldn't have answered. Yeah. You know, and I'm sure you can relate to that when you go through bouts of, and I've never been depressed. I don't want to say that. What I tell people is I have depressive moments. I've had depressive weekends, but I've never been quote depressed. And I just trick my brain not to believe in that. Maybe I have been depressed, but I just don't want to believe it. So I just say I have depressive moments. But anyway, the fact that I did that, Marie, is horrifying. And so I wasn't going to let that opportunity go away. And so I thought, why that weekend? And I thought, you know, Jeff, you skipped a lot of things that you normally are really good at. So you asked me what holds me accountable. The fear of what I almost did as recently as 4 months ago holds me accountable now. So I added 10 minutes on my meditation. Now I do 20, and I added 15 minutes on my running. So I'm so scared of ever seeing that beast again that I'm going guns a-blazing right now, trying to just add all these arrows to my quiver. Like, you know, I don't want to fall back. And so that's my accountability, is that I know I'm just as human as everybody watching your show and listening today. And as strong as you think you are, you're seconds away from losing all of it. And you've got to you can't take shortcuts. You've got to keep doing what you're doing. You know, let's just say, for example, your thing is God. And let's say you're a firm believer, and then you stop going to church, or you stop doing your things that keep you in touch with your God. And all of a sudden now you realize that you have a problem. Well, for me, it was a certain set of things that I skipped. And I think everyone listening to you has their coping mechanisms that they deal with. And I just strongly suggest for people, don't take shortcuts. It's too costly.
That is such an important point, because when you said, you know, you have your weekly accountability calls, I do that too. You know, I have like a board meeting, a mentoring group that I go to, and actually twice a week I catch up with them, and it's literally just for accountability. And we always look at both. My mentor always says business is personal, and I love it, because we always look at our health goals, where we are, we look at our personal goals, we look at our business goals, you know, and we make sure that the whole package is standing. And I went backwards this week. I was like, okay, my health habits went backwards. Of course, it's Easter and it's easy to do, etc., etc. But it's not just the point that, you know, you find all the excuses why it didn't happen. It's the, how do you get back on the horse?
Right.
Because once you break the habit, it's so much harder to get back into it rather than continuing it. So for me, it was like, you know, I've actually got it right next to me. I've got my habit tracker, and I printed out a new one. And I thought, you know what, I just need to hold myself accountable. If I don't do that, if it's just in my head, I'm just like, yeah, I'll do it, I'll get to it. But when there are ticks missing, it really does something to your brain. It really does something to your brain when you can't, you know, it's like scrolling through Facebook, that instant gratification. It is gratification when you tick a box, and we see all the empty boxes and you haven't done it. It really does something. And I'm just saying, like, you know, Jeff, you are throwing out ideas, I'm throwing out ideas. Whoever's watching this, find something that works for you. That's the most important thing. Don't just do it because we say it, or don't just do it because somebody else tells you. Do it if it works for you. Whatever works for you, to hold yourself accountable, to hold yourself in a space where you feel safe. If it's coming into the group and sharing, you know, there's always people here to listen and hold space for you. Yet it's not going to work if you don't allow it in. That is always my biggest message. You know, we can only help you if you allow us in, if you are ready to help yourself. That is the biggest part, you know. And what you said, Jeff, it really rings a bell. And I think that anyone watching this would be able to relate to this whole idea of you're laying there and you feel so alone. But if you would have rung me, I wouldn't have picked up the phone. And that is the exact point, you know, that allowing help in when you're on such a low point, it really is so challenging to allow anyone in, because there is embarrassment, there's shame, there's also disbelief that anybody can help me. There's so many things going on an emotional level. So yeah, whatever it is that you need, whoever's watching this right now, go and find that, but have accountability, have people that check in on you, have people that hold space for you, people that are so close to you that they can sit with you even in your darkest hour, because that is where you need it the most. Like somebody who's not coming and swamping you with advice, but somebody who can just be there with you. Yes, please.
I think for some people that are really struggling with grief and trauma, as great as social media can be to meet people. I mean, I never would have met you if it wouldn't have been for social media, but to just shut everything down for a weekend and just say, I'm going to miss birthdays. I'm not going to like and comment. I'm not going to, and you know what?
Absolutely.
And recharge your batteries.
Digital detox.
When you're already feeling down and all you see is how great other people's lives are, it just pours salt on the, you know, you're happy for people, but you're like, nobody's making comments on my life. You know, all I'm doing is congratulating people and everything. And so I just disconnect everything when I get in those moods where I just don't want to really talk to people. I just disconnect everything. I mean,
that
literally
reminds me of one thing that you said, and I've been using that line ever since we first met. I really loved it. You actually said that line to me. I'm fairly certain you did. When you said the opposite of addiction is connection.
Yes, connection.
And that one-liner has stayed with me ever since, and I've shared it with a lot of people since. And what you just said with social media is a really big thing, because it creates so much connection, but can also create so much disconnection. So we need to make sure that we focus on those things that really make us feel connected, really, truly feel connected. And so I am really so grateful that we connected, Jeff. And I know we're already at the end, but I don't want to quite let go yet. I'd really, really love to reconnect with you either during the tour or at the end of the tour. I'd really love to see how you are going and maybe check in with you, because I am so amazed by what you have put together. I'm really, really incredibly proud of your boys as well. It's so beautiful, like, to hear how they've come through. It's such an honor, like, to speak to you, and it really is a testament to you as a father, how you have come through that. So thank you so much for coming here and sharing this with us. Is there any last beautiful one-liner?
Actually, there is something I would throw out there to everybody
Please.
watching this and listening to this, is that everybody has a why. And for some people, it's revealed early in their life. For me, it was revealed at age 50 when my son died. Then it was revealed again when my wife died. And I tell people this is, when you find your why, you'll find your way, but never stop searching for your why. And you could be sitting there right now going, geez, I'm 50 years old. I don't know what my why is yet. Well, you haven't found it. And once you find it, and then my quote that I have on all of our t-shirts and everything, that's my favorite quote ever: purpose becomes passion when it gets personal. And you say that a few times. Purpose becomes passion when it gets personal. So there you go. Find your why, you'll find your way, and purpose becomes passion when it gets personal. And then be grateful for what you do have, not, in pain for what you've lost,
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. Jeff, thank you so much for being here. I will be in touch with you. Like, I'll stay in touch with you, and I really want to follow. I have one more question for you. How can people support you best on this journey? Is there anything we can do from the outside world to support your journey, your 95-day mission, or anything beyond that?
Yeah, right now, the biggest thing we need is, and you can probably guess, we need financial support. Just to fill the RV up, the way gas is today, it's expensive. So people can go, and we're a 501c3, so it's a nonprofit. People can go to www.livingundeterred.com, livingundeterred.com, and click on the tour. Be sharing
the link.
Yep, and then there's actually one that takes you right to the tour. It's livingundeterred.com. It's a play of words. And you can go right in there, make a donation. You can make some comments. We're going to be live streaming. We're going to be on TikTok and Instagram, and we're going to have lots of ways for people to contribute. But that's probably the most supportful thing people could do is help us out financially for now. Once we get our boots on the ground, we'll be better off.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We will be sharing all the links, all the social media links, etc. I'll invite you to come into the group and share anything and everything, how people can support you, how people can follow you on the journey. And we will be certainly back in touch and bring Jeff back here to our audience. Jeff, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story. And this is Jeff and Marie signing off. Bye for now. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.